Senator Hassan Omar
But
Hassan.
it is not trying to tell me I'm doing it well.
We'll eventually
We'll
get
see.
there. We'll eventually
Let's
get
see
there.
how deep you dig yourself into this one.
I'm doing a Muga. You know, he's from Mombasa and it pays to say how he's digging to the Triba Kisima. But it is possible. Yeah.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you, Eric.
Good to have you in the show. We call that the hot seat, but you know Muga, he's your friend.
He's not necessarily a friend.
Oh.
He's a person I know very, very well. But so if I said he's a friend, it could mean he might not be objective in this show. He's a friend outside this Situation Room.
Oh, by the way,
He's a friend outside the Situation
you
Room.
know how it is. You hear of discounts for friends and relatives.
Yeah.
Hapa.
Yes.
Haipo baba.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's not a friend.
They are not
Outside,
discount. They are
outside
not
Situation
There's no
Room.
friendship discount.
Yes, absolutely.
That
It's
one- that one
outside the
comes
Situation Room.
after the show.
Yes, absolutely.
Hassan, you've been in the UDA campaign for quite a while. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw you making the move and, working. You've been working behind the scenes, I believe,
Yeah.
on the structure of the UDA campaign and how it's going to look like. And that's why we want you to come and tell us about what the prospects are for the coast. What are the plans and the programs that UDA is going to sell to the coast or has been selling to the coast, just to understand them in nitty-gritty. But let's first start with Mombasa. So you want to be the governor of Mombasa. You've been senator of Mombasa County.
Yes, absolutely.
You wanted to be governor in the last election, and you want to be governor again in this election.
Absolutely.
What are the main issues? What are the main pain points for Mombasa County?
I think Mombasa, being urban, has the same kind of pinpoints as you put them, like the rest of Kenya. You'll find that the urban trends are almost similar. But if you do a research specific to Mombasa, at the moment, what towers is unemployment, which has been exacerbated by the shift of the logistic functions, which is the maritime or the port economy into just across the road here at the ICD. And I think it has affected an entire chain. The worst bit about it is that the leadership decided to be a beneficiary to that scheme, and without a response to how to alleviate part of the economic downturn that the cost is. Muga will tell you, with his relatives there, that it's a ghost town. Shops are closing. Everybody is turning every little space into a showroom. I don't know what it is about cars lately. And the streams upon which people could make money have been suffocated. The small sector or the small SMEs cannot intertwine to people's affluence. And therefore, by and large, Mombasa is about economy. It's about leadership that is more creative, thought-provoking, as you put it in your intro. And it's about also steering the boat and nexusing it with national government programs, because Mombasa, as Kenya's second biggest metropolis and contributing significantly to Kenya's GDP, I think at about 16% at the moment, has to continue to enjoy a certain nexus with national government in terms of development priorities. So I think we are thinking about a whole remake of Mombasa, from it now being that port city, that is an economic hub, like port cities across the world, in Singapore, in Amsterdam, and other port cities. So I am quite confident that there is a process of reimagining Mombasa. That is a process offered by the entire political space, because you can't reimagine Mombasa as an island.
Reimagining it also, and then looking at solutions.
Yes.
Obviously, when we say we're into the business of solution making, you have to look at what went wrong.
Yes.
Right. Why do you think things have what you described? Why do you think the tap has been shut on the economy? Why do you think all these things have happened in the manner in which they have?
I for lack of trying to be divisive in terms of classes, I came from a really Marxist school. I actually believed that the economy must be in the hands of the workers and not the few capitalists. What we have done effectively in Kenya is to not only put it into the hands of a few capitalists, but in the hands of a few capitalist politicians and their families. And therefore, every sector of the economy is being ruined to pave way to private sector growth of a private company, of a private family interest. It's happening in Mombasa. It's happening at the national level. And this, what it has then done, it has dried up the taps. Whereas these people who thought they could get richer have gotten richer. They have a bit more money now. But nobody is able to use their services. Nobody is able to purchase from them. So I think what has happened is, if you look at Kenya's politics, it's a string of or an ecosystem of interests that has been strung together. The Mombasa governor and his family in the logistic economy, which is the mainstay of Mombasa's economy, nexusing it with some people who have already taken the national shipping line and want to privatize the port services and allocated themselves logistic functions at the port. They want this, the SGR is already in Nairobi, the port or the logistic economy. They are the ICD. They have allocated themselves concessions here even to transport those goods into here so that they can be an incentive en route to their farms and probably beyond. So if you look at it, it's almost an entire scheme. So as they do this, they are making everybody else poorer. But the net effect is everybody then has no money.
Let me ask you this question. The ICD in Nairobi,
Yes.
the infrastructure that they built in Naivasha, are you therefore saying that all this is unnecessary, that we didn't need to build this?
I think it was imagined on the basis of personal greed of a couple of individuals. If you imagine development holistically, if you imagine the economy holistically, then you divorce yourself from the greed, and therefore you're able to apply things more objectively. The haste in the SGR, and what we've had Tinga saying time and again, that we got a road deal, renegotiating the SGR, putting it into some kind of a government to government, so that you can access a loan and some concessions that we are told are now subject to confidentiality clauses. You put an instrument like the port as a security. Total abrogation of national interest, and therefore when that happens, that infrastructure that you're creating was supposed to create jobs, but that infrastructure is in effect taking away jobs. So there is no produce up there in terms of production from let's say the Kenyan farmlands, be it Eldoret, be it Nairobi, be it central Kenya, to go back into the rail. The rail is constantly inwards, bringing imported cars, imported grain, imported everything. So the whole idea, so it kills an entire chain of economy to create a line that I think people got paid handsomely. I was reading this from part of an international investigative journalist organization, saying that they think there are offshore accounts in France that traded in up to $600 million in commissions of the SGR. When these monies were being paid out in phases. So what I think happened is they dried up the taps for everybody. And this infrastructure, important as it might have been, it did not necessarily contribute to the economic growth. So you're creating infrastructure. You are telling us here we have roads, we are going to have an expressway, but how many jobs is it creating? Are people still capacitated to use this infrastructure in terms of regenerating the economy?
You see, what I'm asking is this. So we didn't need it. We didn't need the ICD. We didn't need it.
No, there's a man called Kibaki. He still towers high as the best of the four presidents. Uhuru, I think, the last. He imagined, these are part of his Vision 2030. That Vision 2030 then, Uhuru came and dropped it. You don't see any mention or reference to Vision 2030. What they became interested in is cherry-picking a few infrastructure projects without the holistic implementation of that vision, so that they can earn quick commissions, quick kickbacks. I recall very well, I even tell DP, I remember the time when it was DP, and they literally walked as a cabinet to defend the SGR and said it's going to go on, it's fait accompli. And they thought it was an important infrastructure project. It was going to define their legacy and Uhuru's legacy. So and therefore I think they collapsed the whole idea that there was a Vision 2030. Vision 2030 imagined, as we are developing the SGR in an affordable rate, with competitively internationally, what we see is rumored to be happening in Ethiopia, or is rumored to be happening in Tanzania. it was supposed then to grow an entire ecosystem or diversity in terms of diversification of the economy. Mombasa was supposed to be quite ahead in terms of the implementation of the Blue Economy program. It was supposed to be quite ahead in the implementation of the establishment of special economic zones. It was supposed to have reimagined the tourism product effectively so that the tourism product is more diverse. So there were a lot of things that were not happening together. So what then Uhuru's obsession became was to put these projects that you see their bloggers constantly posting as Uhuru government delivers, Uhuru delivers. And in the net effect, they've put the country into such massive debt, 9 trillion shillings as it stands, against a GDP of 11 trillion. The economy is facing the real potential of collapse. And it has not reflected positively on the pockets of the Kenyan people.
So basically what you're saying is that, yes, it was, as imagined under Vision 2030, it was a necessary and a good project, but bungled by Jubilee administration.
Bungled by greed, family pride, family interests to get it to Naivasha and create another city there and create another city elsewhere. I think we must be very candid. You see, one thing also, I've always been asking Kibaki's role, government. I remember I was very critical of it based on the disproportionate population of what I thought was Kibaki's, the Kikuyu community at that time. But every time you sat with a Kibaki economist, you left inspired that, yes, he might have been from Kibaki's village, but this man is all that it is, even in terms of economy. Uhuru, they are no thinkers. It appears he was him and Rotich and implementing and Big Ted, and they were making all these decisions, over what Sonko says, sometimes over drink and,
You're conveniently leaving Ruto out of that conversation.
I will come to that.
And we
I will come to that. What happened?
Because the government was Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
We've interrogated him on that matter, and he's been interrogated in national media on that matter. He presents the purpose of. They say I remember the last time we told him in Mombasa that there is no way he can not continue talking about the SGR because it was a legacy under his administration.
Yep.
And he also is of the view that there was a report done by the Japanese JICA that a feasibility that is said and also by Trademark East Africa that before, as the SGR is en route to implementation, other things must also happen.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was never to disenfranchise. And then the SGR implementation has been one bad policy, that every cargo must go onto the SGR. Liberalize the market, let the SGR compete, but it's because of the kind of securities and the kind of personal interest that the SGR has at the moment in terms even of repayment. I believe when a new government comes in, it's able to renegotiate that facility, and it's dispassionate about, right now, do you know what it means to open up some of these contracts for Uhuru Kenyatta in person? Because I think people believe that the buck actually stops at the presidency. And I have heard him talking about how after their first term, they decided to do an audit of how now they can do the skill transfer. That's how they came with the universal healthcare. The big four, they came with the housing, they came with the manufacturing and food security. So that big four was to inform the capital intensive projects that they had over the first term as to how then they feed into the economy. But according to them, and even I have seen it, there was literally a suspension of that big four project. We were supposed to have 500,000 housing units by now. We hardly have 1,700 in somewhere around, is it Pangani?
And even then, the 1,600, exactly 1,600, are not all complete. There's only one unit that is fully complete, but the others are heading towards
Work in
completion.
And
progress.
Kenyans went and had a look at them. We are like this country.
It's work in
Kenya,
progress.
Sihami. These are poor people. They are said, people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of affordable housing. Sema hii kajumba hii kadogo si ukae wewe na bibi yako. Kenyans houses are so small. You're giving a Kenyan who is living, yes, he might be living in some informal settlement, but in about 100 square meters. You're telling him to squeeze himself into some 20 square meter with his family of 3.
Again, Hassan, just coming back to the topic. You've talked about the main pain points, for example, of Mombasa, that when you talk about even tourism, the blue economy and all, will cut across the entire coast region, right? There have been failures by leadership at national level, the Ruto government. There have also been failures at parliamentary level, where we elect representatives to go and oversight and raise questions and demand answers for this. You served as a senator when all these things were being implemented. You and your colleagues, senators from the coast region, members of parliament from the coast region, where was your voice?
But there,
When all
I
this
was-
heavy infrastructure and debts were being borrowed, when the debt ceiling was being raised.
I will not try to excuse myself from responsibility that must come as a collegiate, but at least exonerate me for at least speaking out time and again, even as a lone voice. You know, Mombasa prided itself being an ODM zone, and I was the only wipe, I think, at that time with Awiti. Awiti never raised a lot of these issues. For some various limitations, but I did in many theaters where I kept telling the county and reminding them, all is not well with this county. Money, the non-priority expenditure. You are removing pavements that were put there since the colonial period. They look quite okay, and you're putting pavements that are red in color just because you want to benefit a family member. So, and I said, when development is conceptualized as a theft enterprise, then it doesn't become development. It just becomes sheer theft. So, rather than invest in the areas that were really service sectors that were necessary, healthcare, probably making it easy in terms of ease of doing business for small-scale enterprise, you started, raining on them, telling people to paint their houses blue and white. You started, going on this blitz, and there was really no pattern of progressive development.
Now, what you're doing is actually considered to be easy. Pinpointing and saying this is wrong, this isn't right, this should be done this way. So tell us, what is your vision for Mombasa?
That's what I called reimagining or remaking or re-engineering. With the audit, first you have to audit where the problem is, like an auditor. Then you now need to be solution-oriented, to use your words. And therefore, for us, there are various interventions immediately that we want to have when we get into Mombasa. First and foremost, it's non-negotiable. Systematically, within the first 100 days, the order in terms of the illegal transfer.
Mheshimiwa, tell me, what is this thing with 100 days?
100 days was a benchmark. I was told there was an American president who started this whole culture of 100 days. Because what it then effectively does, that's the time when your government is probably most popular and people have given it the clean bill of health. That's the time, you remember when Kibaki told us to walk and take over KICC. We restructured the Batatu sector. If we didn't do it within with that day, with the euphoria, with the euphoria,
then you won't do it. When the jubilation and celebration is over, definitely you won't do it.
I told her, come and storm this place.
So
It's likely.
So within the first 100
days.
what are you going to do within the first 100 days?
So the first 100 days will be spent doing what?
But the first 100 days, I think we've done an audit of various policies. We want to first and foremost bring down the cost of living drastically. So what we do is Mombasa has no real agriculture, but we have markets that impact on the price of food. So we want to ensure that first and foremost we remove all levies or whatever they call taxes or tariffs that impact directly on the cost of food. And that will be done also in consultation with the national government, because then we'll also need to plug various budgetary deficits. Then we intend, and that is not negotiable, to restore part of the logistic economy back into Mombasa. To liberalize the space. The courts have said, I think the parliament has said that enforcement is illegal, yet nothing has been done to move it backward. It's because we are paying a debt. And if we don't move that cargo through that, so therefore the national government needs to revise that order in terms of its enforcement and be able to at least restore part of the logistic functions. That, to a certain extent, starts to bring in some money back into the economy. Then there's this. Then I'm in tandem with this Hustler Fund. This bottom up. The bottom up is about the economy. It's about putting some kind of working capital within the hands of what we call the hustlers. We did our own research. 64% of Kenyans below the 30 and below are hustling in their own little way. They have opened some little businesses somewhere, which they call side hustles. They're either in the mtumba business, they're either doing saloon, they're doing kinyozi, they're doing electronics, they're doing something somewhere. But their greatest impediment is access to cheap and affordable working capital. So we want to make that available so that immediately we put money into the economy, we start to expand our revenue bases. We start to spur some kind of growth. And these people have an average income of about 35,000. It's just like what a teacher earns in a high school, I think. So there is a way in which this hustlanization, or by putting some bit of money there, will start to spur some bit of economic activity. And also now the UDA government, the Ruto government, hopes to do that in the first 100 days, move a law to create the framework and pull in some money from non-priority expenditure and put the first 100 billion in the first 100 or 100 days of the first 3 to 5 months. And therefore we start to put some money into the economy, and to start supporting
people's
production.
Hands and people's pockets. Let's come back into the issues that are affecting the coast. So you've told us about, for example, Mombasa economy. The port economy has been disrupted.
And then there's something also needed to add to that. There's been a massive investment by people in Mombasa in terms of these CFSs, container freight stations. And they were supposed to be a short gap measure towards some congestion at the port way back during the Minchuk era. They were not supposed to be an endless,
they're not supposed to be a permanent.
Permanent, exactly. That's the word. But then that investment also must be put to use. We have spoken to the center that is planning the UDA economic blueprint, that we need to create policy or a framework of law or regulations that allows us to create some kind of a free trading zone of FTZs, where we could have bring in free import-free kind of merchandise, and rather than somebody go all the way to Dubai, can come and buy a Japanese car there or whatever kind of. So we are looking at also very critically in how to spur that infrastructure in terms of the FTZs. But coming to your question on the coast region, we realized as politicians we're not experts in everything. In fact, that is also something.
You did, eh?
I think we need to stop for a moment.
Pose it. No, that realization hardly comes to many politicians. So you must say that as a starting point that we did realize that. And if you see at the Hustler Nation or UDA, there's a lot of integration between the academy and politics, because the people must be conscious of their limitations. You just because you speak good English doesn't necessarily mean you're educated. It could just be your station in life, having gotten you to speak that good English. Absolutely, you could have gone to you could have gone to St. Mary's. That doesn't mean anything, So you're not an economist per se. So you must be able to allow yourself to benefit from those who know. In fact, I think in our Quran, God doesn't discriminate anywhere, but He asks only one critical question about, are they equal? Those who know and those who know not. We were saying if God was to answer that question, He will say they are not. What sets apart human beings is knowledge. And that's why those who don't have it scandalize those who have it. And they call you all manners of name, arrogant.
It would seem, though, Hassan, because this is what we're talking about fundamentally here, that there are issues that have dogged the coast for the longest time. We've had, so many stories here of secession, etc., bringing the coast onto the national level. And now here you're saying that we're going into an election period, and that there are those who know and that there are those who don't. I can only assume who you're saying who knows. But these people have been in government before.
Let me tell you.
They've been in government. They are currently in government. So the question is, what has been stopping them from doing this thing which they know all this time? And now we're going into another cycle. And then we are saying, well, there are those who know and don't know. And they ought to be given the opportunity.
Those who know is actually what I'm referring to, the intelligentsia. We set up a cost economic regeneration team, which is chaired by a professor from Pan University, who we have told either to draw for us a blueprint or to audit the blueprints that exist We have the CDA, which has a blueprint, the Coast Development Authority. We have the Jumuiya County of Pwani. There are papers and papers after papers and counter papers that have talked about the development of the coast region. So what we've done is we've drawn up a coast economic regeneration plan. And as you said, there's no fundamental departure from those who have diagnosed the problem in the past, because the people who've diagnosed the problem are the same professors, but they've lacked the capacity in terms of political power to go and implement these types of programs. You see, most of the people...
I'm assuming that these reports are research-based.
Yeah, they're research-based. So definitely, the JKP, Jumuiya County of Pwani, for a long time was being also supported by the British High Commission in terms of doing, or the DFID, in terms of doing its research. The same way for some of the regional economic forums that have generated as a function of devolution. So what we have done is to come up with a cost economic regeneration plan, but at least for the first 5 to 10 years. And we realized that there were 3 or 4 pillars. So that we have two main sub-themes. One is Jenga Pwani, which involves about 3 or 4 subsectors, which is about the blue economy / the special economic zone, agriculture, and mining. And then we say Inua Pwani, meaning that these are service sectors that you must spur. So we have healthcare, we have education, and education, healthcare and education. So and I think and water. So we are saying to ourselves that in terms of the 3 Inua Pwani, those are now economic or developmental priorities. We want to invest in production. We want to ensure we build the special economic zones. We want to ensure...
I have to stop you right there.
Yes, please do.
Because what you're telling us is what anyone who is in a political party will tell us.
Absolutely.
This is what we want to do. These are plans we have. And all those plans are actually good. If you read them, if you try to understand them, they make sense. The question is always the how to.
The implementation.
Yes, absolutely. Because, and telling us when we get into power, this is what we will do. That one, every other politician also tells us exactly the same thing. All right?
Now, but I recognize that politicians literally probably source the same type of intellectuals, and there is a trust deficit in terms of whether politicians will be able to deliver. So now what we are saying is we have the capacity, and that's why we are distincting ourselves from those who have been there in the past.
See, the point is you're saying...
Yes, no, but you see, you come here to make these kinds of views every day. It's based on a certain background. You have a certain experience, and all of you have been qualified by a certain minimum standard. So what we're asking Kenyans is look and interrogate the character and capacity of this individual. What has he stood for? What has he represented? So in addition to the programs, we are trying to build a team that effectively appears as capable, based on to implement these plans.
UDA has no track record beyond the things they promise and they say. The individuals in UDA, on the other hand, have track records.
And that's exactly what we are selling. Part of the team of individuals, particularly in the coast region, that is emerging, that could provide a qualitative departure from what we have seen in the past. And what is our starting point? Is to first and foremost change the conversation to economics, because some of us fare very badly when the conversation is ethnic. We find ourselves literally swimming in an island where we have to do political and ethnic mathematics that becomes extremely difficult. But then when you start to be an issue-based institution, and you start to say, okay, let's inform part of these issues, and you present yourself as the person who's able to actually deliver on those issues. Muga, I have no interest whatsoever in the port logistic economy. I have never been a beneficiary of any contract, or neither do I intend to be a beneficiary of any contract. I have lived 46 years of my life trying to keep away my hands from the national till, despite having been in government in various intervals. So I'm saying, contrary to those who are there to protect interests, we are there to disrupt them. We are not there to preserve status quo. We are there to reimagine or to be able to disrupt status quo, so that we can be able to give people a greater reason to hope. You know, we come closer to the aspirations of many Kenyans. What I was telling some mothers when I met them, I said, I am more or less like your son in this regard. I have gone through schooling normally, and the only thing that puts me here today is the ability to sell an idea to you and the education that I received. I am not coming with a pile of money. I'm not coming with a family name. I'm not coming with a legacy to protect in terms of interest. I'm just coming reimagining that it is possible for all of you, for all your kids and all of us to get a better life. And these are the ideas we have accumulated over the times that I have been in the human rights space, in the advocacy space, and even in basic interactions with people. I thought we share some ideological congruity.
You know, political parties have their benefits. Mm-hmm. They have their pull, like you say, ODM at the coast and in Mombasa, but they also have their baggage. Mm-hmm. Now, the question I want to ask you is, in your mind, do you really think that the voters in Mombasa County will be able to distinguish and put you aside and say, this is HASSAN OMAR? Okay? Mm. We don't really care which party is in. We will look at him as our son and the person we know and vote for him.
I'm persuaded that the voters are becoming more and more sophisticated by the day. It is not the Kenya we had 20 years ago. We are evolving somewhat. If we look at, for instance, one fact, Mount Kenya today. The unease in Mount Kenya is the fact that the elitry there, which has, or the dynastical elitry, has not been able to put them in a basket and to tell them again, go in this direction or go in that direction. And these rebellions are literally happening across all societies. Young people are learning that, your son, the other one from another region are all in the same school. They are disrupting what was commonplace for us. So a lot of, you can almost bank on the fact that the evolution of society, slow as it might be, is creating a new Kenyan electorate that is becoming more and more conscious of its rights and its aspirations. They are all hungry. They all know the economy is shattered. Why are the people in Mount Kenya so angry with Uhuru Kenyatta? It is a Kikuyu president or Mount Kenya president. He's shattered the economy.
Sure.
There's less money in their pockets.
People are hungry. People are expectant. People know what they want. Take it like when you go to look for insurance for whatever kind. There is a minimum guarantee that company will give you, that you're going to put something in us, right? Every month or after every calculated period. And we're going to guarantee that the minimum will be this. How do they guarantee you that? Well, they show you over the last 100 years, we've not fallen, we've not shaken. This is what we've been able to do. These same people who are hungry, these same people who are expectant, these people from Mombasa who've been crying over the last 5 years, 10 years and saying this has gone too, are looking for that guarantee that should they put their hope, which is now the currency that they will trade for a better tomorrow, in this individual, this is the minimum guarantee that this is what people are asking for now. What is it? What is the minimum guarantee that they can be sure of?
My guarantee, and sometimes I find it very difficult to talk about myself, is that I have, over the years, organically come into the movement to be the constitutional movement when I was at the university. That's where you form yourself ideologically. You believe that there are certain tenets of society that need to be reorganized. You get into some kind of formations. You win university student leadership. You activate that within the national space. You push, and you literally that time the university was the opposition because the opposition was either weak or dysfunctional. So you found yourself constantly at loggerheads with the Moi regime. Friends were dying. Students were shutting universities almost indefinitely. So I think based on that, you start to pick a certain value system, and the more you start to interact, you go there. By God's greatest faith and favor, you then continue to align yourself with the right and progressive forces. They continue to build your belief in a certain system of government and life. You get into the human rights space. You get into first into activism and then the human rights space, and constantly, you're just imbibing yourself with an entire ecosystem of people who are just trying to shape and redefine and refine what you stand for. And in that, because of that self-audit and self-censure based on peer, I remember Maina telling us when we were in the KNCHR, account for every penny. If you're making so much noise, make sure there's nothing for them to hold you to account for. So keep away your hands from the national till. You get into Senate, every other young senator and member of the National Assembly is at various ministries of roads looking for carer work, contracts, getting to KPA looking for this tender and that tender, and you are self-denial. You say, I will stand that. I remember that once there was a strike by KPA workers, and the CEO at that time, MD Nduria, I was the only politician who attended that strike, called by Sang and his team. Then they called me later, so I met them. I thought they wanted to resolve the strike. So when I met the two of them, him and the operational chief, at the Nyali Golf Club, they told me, do you know why you're the only one who attended that demonstration? I said, no. Oh, that strike? I said, no. He says, because you're the only one who's not asking for anything from KPA. All the other MPs are asking for something. They have a contract in the pipeline. They have some wet works here. They have some wet works there. So I have tried in an ocean.
We'll grant you that.
An ocean of real sharks to try and navigate it. So I that's why I'm asking the people of Mombasa to give me an opportunity.
We'll grant you that. The fact that you as an individual, there's what you stand for. There's what you've spoken about, and you've got your track record. Okay, just like you've said, there needs to be political goodwill and collaboration at county level and at national level. So if you become a UDA governor in Mombasa, and then we had a UDA president in State House, these are the same people, all these issues you're talking about, these are the same ones who have not implemented them. We are talking about killing the port economy of Mombasa. Ruto government killed the port economy of Mombasa. We are talking about education and advancement of education.
Where the handshake was not able to do anything about.
Right. If we're talking about education and healthcare and water, why is it that to date water is still an issue for Mombasa and other coastal cities? Why is it? If this government, if the people who've been in charge of the national government this time have not delivered, how do we trust them to work with you to help you deliver on your promise to the people of Mombasa that you shall give them water?
This hustler nation or the Tanga, one of the best things about it was like it was an insurgency. It erupted from the inside. They rebelled from the mainstream Jubilee idea or mantra of Uhuru Kenyatta. I believe personally that Uhuru wanted to extend his stay in power.
You actually think that the split was because of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe that.
Okay,
because I used to see the Murad's narratives about the Medvedev vis-a-vis Putin, kind of a shift, how Uhuru is still young, and that in Kikuyu Dome, that's when the leadership starts at 60 and stuff. So I could tell the narrative. It's just that then people became a bit anxious about this prolonged, and they thought they could sell something to Raila to put him in power and probably create a transition where Raila will play ball. So, and finally the BBI collapsed, and a few other things that were part of the grand scheme collapsed. But it became an insurgency. People are shaped by certain theaters of history. I believe when some of these guys probably were in this comfort zone. When this kind of unprecedented rebellion happened and the victimization followed, and people are awake themselves to certain new realities, and they undergo, in my estimation, a redemption of sort. So I want to believe some of these allies exited Jubilee and left a lot of the core of Jubilee intact in terms of the cartels. So they literally just, you'll find that Ruto...
So it's the top layer.
So the Ruto ecosystem is fundamentally different right now. That's why you see it populated by HASSAN, OMAR, David D, and a few other people. Because that ecosystem that perverted the economy is still within the administration of the Jubilee government.
So let me ask you, I want to ask you a specific question, because I'm asking this one, and let's get into it specifically. You're talking about very many funds. So, for instance, for economic empowerment of the people, of small businesses and all, and funds are going to be put in place. This is the same administration, the person who's heading your campaign, same administration that said, in fact, if 2013, we go into office round one without a rerun, that money is going to be put into a fund. Uwezo Fund was created. Have we seen the impact of Uwezo Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, and the others? And I'll remind you what everybody in Tanga keeps telling us, that in the first term, Uhuru and Ruto were working together, and Ruto was very much involved in the running of government. So when he was very much involved in running of government, what did Uwezo Fund do that we can now entrust and know 100 billion shillings fund will be delivered?
As I said, that's going. A lot of people. I'm not going to defend or try to speak to Jubilee's first term because I was fairly also critical of it. I am imagining from what we have picked from Jubilee's first term and the experiences of some of the many experiences that we see today. I'm a bit more optimistic that the allies that we have formed ourselves around are capable of delivering some of these promises. We have strategically positioned ourselves from various parties. UDAs are coming together of people from Jubilee, ODM, Ford Kenya, all these manners of parties, independent, Muhammad Ali and the team. So I want to believe that we fermented a common vision. And we are going not into a government by a partnership with part of the leadership that is there. And the partnership is based on piecing all these economic blueprints from the various regions and then driven by a leadership that is committed to it. So I have a feeling that we might just be, based on the kind of experience, the baptismal by fire. Ruto has undergone various baptismals by fire. Betrayed by Raila, who after he helped him win an election, because I feel that Raila tried to push him out of his own government in the Nusumkate. Gets into the ICC with Uhuru Kenyatta. Get out of the ICC with Uhuru Kenyatta. The same Uhuru Kenyatta now tries to put him to size, tries to deny him the benefit of
HASSAN,
the
you do know
president.
Victim
so
calling
you do
here.
know we're talking about
You're
politics
making
here.
it look as though
So-
he's purely a victim.
No, it's
in all
not
of
a
this.
question about victim calling.
So
What
because
I'm
of that,
simply
he's
saying,
changed.
what happens, people then are shaped by various circumstances. And therefore, these elections, the way it has now been phrased, and I agree with Muli Mutunga, we don't have a way out. It's either you're with Raila Odinga or William Ruto. I don't see anything in between. And I'm happy that somebody like Mudavadi has already chosen a side. Now we are left with Kalonzo, and my trust is that Kalonzo will choose wisely, because I can tell you the numbers are not in favor of a Raila victory. They are fundamentally disadvantaged.
You know, we
So
don't
my-
expect you to say anything different, really. Given that
Buga,
you
go
are-
do your science. Go do your science.
Given that you
we
are
are
a UDA
powered. We are
candidate.
powered by real research. So my
Okay.
view, Latif, is I'm not able to do it alone. I have to choose a side. Even today, if you came into politics, I see journalists coming into politics. There are these things that we internalize, we fraternize and romanticize, third force, Sijui Willy Mutunga, not Willy Mutunga, what's he called? Kiputa Kibwana, and unfortunately, Mukhisa Kitui it's dead on arrival. You have another, fraternization, romanticism. But we are in a real political world. I have to, as a person, choose a side and dig in and have faith that I can pursue that ambition and interest, and then pursue the programs that I intend to execute in Mombasa County.
HASSAN, should your party get into power,
Yes, sir.
given that the political animals we have in this country are the same ones we've had before, the very things that you're disenfranchised about when you're in the Senate, I'm going to be a prophet here. They will replicate and repeat themselves, because I do not see a situation where the politician in this country is actually going to become a different person. You are an idealist, and you believe, you are actually an honest believer, as I call them. But to imagine that the rest of your competitors are the same, that's a bit far-fetched.
But Muga, what choices do we have?
What
We
would
have
you-
to get into this
You have to
space.
work. You
We
have to work
get
with
into this
the
space.
devil
To
in.
then prove yourself.
Yeah, to prove yourself, and also build camaraderie, build allies, and hope that with every successive election, a new
crop.
critical mass will be emerging, and that's how. So you achieve through an evolution rather than a revolution.
Okay.
So I'm hoping by the next phase, a new critical mass will have come up, and it is able probably to deliver on the functions or the expectations of the Kenyan and aspirations of the Kenyan public.
HASSAN Omar, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for articulating the issues as you have. And we want to invite you again in coming days.
I'm looking forward.
Yep. So come and let's talk about your campaign, what you're seeing, what you believe is what ought to work in the country going forward.